I taught myself to cook. Over 20 years of obsessively experimenting in the kitchen and questioning everything to create my magical restaurant dishes. Now I'm going to share my secrets with you so you can cook like me at home. Looks brilliant, doesn't it? Each week we'll look at one key ingredient like cheese, beef or eggs. This week, it's chocolate. I really believe that by getting to grips with your ingredients, you'll gain the confidence to be more creative with your cooking. I like that. I'm going to go back to basics, challenge traditional techniques, and compile a compendium of tips to transform how you cook at home. I'm taking 5 from that one. So come and share my innermost secrets. I'm known for using all kinds of weird and wonderful ingredients in my cooking. For this show, it's going to be soil. I mean chocolate. Luckily, it is chocolate. Chocolate, the most gorgeous, luxurious, seductive ingredient on the planet. We love it so much, some say it's addictive.
Oh, God, that is divine.
This week, I'm going to tell you everything about chocolate. From basic techniques like how to melt it and make a delicious treat, there you've got a beautiful chocolate truffle, to some real chocolate magic. How to flock it and shock it. I'll show you some surprising ingredients that work with chocolate and some that frankly don't. Then I'll show you how to make my exploding chocolate cake. And chocolate soil to top my trick dessert, flower pot tiramisu. After all that, you'll never cook or look at chocolate the same way again.
Fantastic. Look at that chocolate underneath.
You would be forgiven in thinking that this is how chocolate grew, but it looks like this when it comes off the tree. This is a cocoa pod. That what a cocoa bean looks like. Now, if I taste that, if I taste it like that, nobody would ever eat chocolate. It's just really bitter. So, these beans are fermented and then roasted. At this point, they're incredibly hard little things that need to be ground down with massive factory machines. And we haven't got one of them, but it's a good excuse for my development chef, Jockey, to get the power tools out. Jockey, a pneumatic drill. That should do it. It's already starting to smell like chocolate. In a factory, the crushed beans are pulverized, ground and heated until they split into 2 separate products: bitter cocoa powder and fatty cocoa butter. These are the key raw ingredients of chocolate, which are mixed back together in varying proportions. Between these two, with the addition of sugar and maybe some dairy, you've got the whole range of chocolates, from the really bitter dark plain chocolate, which contains mostly cocoa powder, through to the white chocolate, which contains just cocoa butter. I'm going for one with a bit of each. That is a million miles away from this. Now, the first thing you need to know about chocolate is that if you're anything like me, you've got to buy a lot more than you need, because I end up eating as much as I need for my recipe. The second thing you need to know about chocolate is how to melt it properly. Now, I think a lot of people think that this stage is really tricky to do, but in fact, it's pretty easy. If you follow 3 key steps, you'll get perfectly melted chocolate every time. And once I've melted this, I'm going to show you how to make the most delicious yet incredibly simple chocolate truffles. There are loads of ways of melting chocolate, but this is the foolproof one. Remember that chocolate contains cocoa butter, so treat it just like butter. Warm it gently away from direct heat, or it can split and separate. You just can't rush chocolate. You've got to gently seduce it. Make sure the water doesn't touch the bottom of the bowl, and just put it on a medium heat, and then just gently melt it. Second, just give it a stir so it melts evenly. You can see the hot and the cold mixing together until the chocolate becomes one temperature. And third, the big warning. Beware of water. Even the tiniest splash may make it seize up and go lumpy. If you know that, melting chocolate is simple. Now, let's use the melted chocolate to make the sexiest, silkiest truffle in the world. The heart of any great chocolate truffle is a ganache. Now, that sounds like a bit of a poncy French name, and kind of it is. But it's effectively 50-50 chocolate and cream. It's really easy to make. The trick is to stir in warm double cream 1/3 at a time, and this is going to make it super smooth. Then leave it to cool at room temperature before chilling in the fridge. If I just take a melon baller and then just pull out a ball of ganache and then drop it in cocoa powder. And there you've got a beautiful chocolate truffle. You could dip them in white chocolate, plain chocolate, milk chocolate. You could coat them in chopped nuts. This simple little combination can just produce so many delightful recipes. So to get the best out of chocolate, you need to melt it gently. But even before that, it's vital to take good care of it. A few important things to know when storing chocolate. Firstly, chocolate does not like fluctuations of temperature or humidity. If the environment becomes too warm or too humid, you'll get this horrible sort of white spots all on the surface of the chocolate. And secondly, it loves aromas. So if you're going to store your chocolate in the fridge, it's important to have it completely wrapped, ideally in an airtight container. And thirdly, most importantly of all, is make sure you keep your chocolate hidden away. Otherwise, this happens. It'll get nabbed. What a pig. Now, for my next trick, I'm going to turn that little truffle into a fabulous cake. I love this recipe because it's both delicious and great fun. It's a chocolate and passion fruit gâteau that explodes in your mouth. It's got a secret ingredient, popping candy. I remember this so fondly as a kid. There used to be something called space dust, and you'd pop this stuff on your tongue. Oh, sorry. I forgot I was actually meant to be showing you a recipe there. Anyway, to make the biscuit base, it's incredibly easy. Just chuck a pack of all-butter biscuits in a blender with 30 grams of melted butter and a couple of tablespoons of sugar. And then just blitz this up. OK, so what I've got here is like a biscuit crumb. Now the popping candy. Just be really careful you don't squeeze too hard. Otherwise, this stuff is going to crackle and lose all its pop. Put that in a cake mould and leave it to set. Now the topping. It's basically a giant truffle, just like the one we made earlier. But this time, to give it a passionate twist, I'm adding an extra ingredient. Passion fruit for me has a fantastic affinity with chocolate. This cake is going to be really silky smooth and incredibly rich. The acidity from the passion fruit is just going to lift it to another level. Scoop out half a dozen passion fruits. Tip that into 175 grams of whipping cream. Bring the whole thing to the boil and leave the flavours to infuse for 5 minutes. Next, I need to strain out the passion fruit seeds from the cream. And now, here's a cheat. Add 50 grams of shop-bought custard. It'll make it set a little bit softer. In fact, too soft to be able to mould a truffle from, but just perfect for this gâteau. Now, incorporate the cream into the chocolate. There is something so therapeutic about working with chocolate. You hear that noise? I just had a moment then. Then finally pour the ganache over the biscuit base and pop it in the freezer till it sets. And that's it. Now you just need to get the mould off the frozen cake, which gives me another great excuse to get the power tools out. And the first one is a blowtorch. This is the easiest way of removing a mould from a frozen gâteau. And this should then just slide down over the gâteau. You could just let that defrost and it's ready, but I want to give it a final crowning glory, a rich velvety coat. And for that, I need another power tool, a paint gun. Now you can just pick this up from a DIY store. But instead of paint, I'm filling it with a mixture of warm melted chocolate and oil. What is it with me and screw caps? And when I finally get the thing together, I can do the fun bit and spray. This is DIY heaven, and the effect is amazing. When the melted chocolate hits the frozen cake, it solidifies instantly, giving it that rich velvet coating. But if you don't happen to have a paint sprayer, all is not lost. Simply sprinkle the unfrozen cake with cocoa powder and dive in. This gatto has just got everything. Really delicate acidity and the fragrance from the passion fruit. And just when you think it's got it all, you then get this just incredible crackle and pop somewhere around the back of your head and your ears. I mean, it's it's sublime. It's a pure delight. If you want to know how to make my exploding chocolate gatto or any of the other recipes featured in the series, go to channel4.com/Heston. I'm known around my village for adding all sorts of strange things to my recipes, but there's one thing I don't think you should mess with. One of my childhood favourites, simple hot chocolate. I'm off to the village hall to meet some local actors to see how they make theirs, and I've heard their recipes are as flamboyant as their costumes.
Welcome. Thrice welcome, Master Blumenthal, to our humble theatre.
First to show off her hot chocolate is the regal Dana.
I know there are people who say chocolate is better than sex, but I'm not convinced they're doing it right.
Dana melts her chocolate in the microwave. Now that's fine, but it should be done in short bursts because it can burn easily. Then she adds rather a lot of other ingredients.
So what I do is I infuse milk and cream with cardamom and pink peppercorns and fresh ginger, which I think is brilliant with chocolate.
An exotic combination, rather like Dana herself. I have to say that's quite delicious. Yeah. Next is Alexandra, who's going non-dairy. Are you making almond milk?
Yes, I'm making almond milk. So
See, I like that idea.
Water and almond.
We've got a curveball in here. No gentle seduction of chocolate for Alex. She melts it in a pan over direct heat, but luckily, hers has survived.
I'm just going to add a little bit of sugar, a tiny bit of vanilla, and the final ingredient, the cayenne in there. Just going at the end.
It's definitely bitter. And third, Philip, a man of many faces and, it turns out, ingredients.
Into this, I'm going to put 3 star anise, some ground allspice, vanilla, cumin seeds, condensed milk. I also include an egg. There's a little bit of cream in that. This is pure cocoa powder.
I might actually learn something here. Oh, hang on. He's adding another one.
I kept the best to last, you know. That is chili powder. I like to have that around the rim where it burns your lips as you drink it. Let's put this.
Cheers.
Sip. Enjoy.
I have to say, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
That's a thumbs up.
I love people experimenting with food, and this lot have gone rather theatrical with their ingredients. My recipe, however, is about bringing back childhood memories with simplicity, some science, and good old drinking chocolate. Heat 50 grams of drinking chocolate in 200 ml of water, add 50 ml of semi-skimmed milk, and some whipping cream to make it extra smooth. Now for something they're not expecting, an ingredient that makes very bitter chocolate taste surprisingly sweet: salt. Take a piece of chocolate, a little pinch of salt. You can see how the salt just tones down the bitterness.
Makes it sweeter.
Pour the hot salted mixture over 55 grams of dark chocolate and whisk to melt. Then a final touch, froth it to give it a light velvety texture and serve.
What character would this be if it were a character?
Some like it hot chocolate.
Some like it hot chocolate.
I'd definitely give it a 10.
You know, I think this lad could go far.
Thank you.
I think I've convinced them that all they need is a pinch of salt. So we've conquered the chocolate basics, we've seduced it, and we've turned that simple truffle into an exploding cake. After the break, more chocolate magic that you can do at home. Shock freezing with a computer keyboard cleaner, an iced chocolate wine, and a chocolate illusion, flower pot tiramisu.
Absolutely brilliant.
Each week I'm taking one ingredient, starting with basic techniques, sharing my secrets, and showing you how to work some kitchen magic in your own home.
It looks like a witch's cauldron.
This week, chocolate. We've mastered melting and transformed a simple truffle into an exploding cake. Now, before I surprise the actors with a dessert hidden under chocolate soil in the flower pot,
tiramisu.
I'm going to share some more chocolate secrets. After years of experimenting, I found it works with some really surprising flavours. If you look at all the spices, ginger, clove, nutmeg, mace, cinnamon, you could add star anise, chilli, pepper, and then the herb root and lemongrass to basil, from bay leaf to rosemary. It goes with blue cheese, caviar. It even goes with this stuff, wine. One of my favourite combinations combines creamy milk chocolate with rich dessert wine. And for a twist, I've frozen it to make a refreshing iced chocolate wine. It's really simple. The results are just fabulous. First, a bit of theatre. Heat 2 bottles of wine in a pan. Now, good tip for emptying a bottle of wine nice and quickly. Upturn the bottle and spin it. You create like a whirlpool and the vortex will pull the liquid out. I like that. Bring it to the boil and set fire to it. Now, the purpose of this is to flame off the alcohol. So I want all the wine flavour, but without any of the alcohol. And then reduce it by half. Next, pour some hot milk over a bowl of milk chocolate and stir. So a very simple way of melting chocolate. Just make sure the milk isn't boiling. Add the chocolate milk to the wine and allow it to cool. Now, this will do two things. It will help develop the flavour. And secondly, the wine will react with the chocolate, and this mix will go a little bit grainy. To get rid of the sediment, strain the mixture through muslin and then freeze it. And just scrape the surface. You can hear the ice. And that little light crunch is going to add an extra freshness to this dish. See, for me, what makes this so magical is it's just a perfect balance of something that is rich yet light. Just so simple, so beautiful. For my next trick, how can you serve chocolate set like this wondrous decoration at home? Shock freeze it, of course. We used to do this at the restaurant, but you need super cold temperatures, and a domestic chest freezer is just not cold enough to make this work. However, I discovered these little beauties. If you press them like that, take the top off first. They're basically air dusters for cleaning keyboards and stuff. If you press them like that, you just get a jet of air coming out, not very cold. If you turn them upside down, instead of air, super cold gas propellant shoots out. So here I've got an upturned baking sheet, which I'm going to freeze with these upturned canisters. The gas propellant instantly freezes the baking sheet, dropping it to a whopping -25 degrees centigrade. Make sure you do this outside because there's a lot of gas coming out of here. And you don't want to breathe it in. Right. Then make sure you turn the tray over and use the clean surface. The gas could be harmful if you eat it. And in these two piping bags, I've got some dark and white chocolate, which I've gently melted. Now for the fun bit. Just go crazy. Shock freezing solidifies the outside as soon as it hits the cold surface, while the inside stays soft. What's so unusual about this is you can kind of bend it. Just imagine like a big sheet of chocolate paper that you can bend around a gateau or mould into almost any shape you want. And the reason I can do this is because the plaque was so cold, the fat in the chocolate hasn't had time to properly freeze. So it's kind of ended up as a halfway house, somewhere between a solid and a liquid. And that is chocolate shocking. Now for a recipe with mystery, surprise, and a little bit of trickery. Tiramisu hidden in a flower pot. Tiramisu is a classic dessert. There's nothing classic about my version of this. Tiramisu is all about the layers. First, I'm going to make the topping, crunchy chocolate soil. So the first stage of making the edible soil is to make the crystallised dark chocolate. Earlier I said don't get water near chocolate, but for this recipe, forget that. Chuck dark chocolate in a pan of water and sugar heated to 140 degrees. Watch what happens. The whole mixture just bubbles up. And then it's gone nice and crumbly. And under normal circumstances, you probably think you've ruined your chocolate mixture, but this is exactly what we're after here. Next, add caramelised white chocolate, grape nuts for crunch, cocoa powder, and that all-important secret sweetener, a pinch of salt. Then drizzle in hazelnut oil to make it muddy, and your chocolate soil is complete. That's got a perfect balance of pebbles, minerals, and mud. Next, the creamy filling. In order to make the cream for my tiramisu, beat 3 eggs and 50 grams of sugar until light and fluffy. Then, in a separate bowl, mix 200 grams of whipping cream with 300 grams of mascarpone. So you might be wondering why I didn't just bung all the ingredients together in the mixer. Well, the reason for not doing that was I wanted to avoid over-whipping the cream. As you whip cream, you incorporate tiny little air pockets into the mixture. But eventually, if you continue to whisk, they collapse, and you lose that wonderful texture. Then add half a leaf of dissolved gelatine so it sets as a light mousse. Masala wine for an extra kick, and fold in the egg mixture. That's the creamy bit done. So now I'm ready to build my tiramisu in a flower pot. First, we put one of these small chocolate discs into the bottom of the pot. Then add some sponge fingers soaked in coffee and masala wine, just like a trifle. Next, some of the masala cream, one of the chocolate discs, and top with a final layer of cream. Spread some chocolate soil on top and finish by planting some fresh herbs. There is my tiramisu with edible soil. For my flower pot tiramisu recipe or anything featured in the series, go to channel4.com/Heston. Food should be fun. I love surprising people. And today, I've invited my actor friends over for a garden party with a difference.
What is Heston going to cook?
Afternoon.
How nice to see you again.
And they've no idea that flower pot tiramisu is on the menu. Bit of a gardening lunch.
I'm vegetarian anyway. Yeah.
Just dig in. They think they're supposed to eat the herbs until I point out that the soil is far more delicious.
Oh, you're joking. You're not...
What? Everything here.
Yeah, it's a tiramisu.
Oh, tiramisu. Fantastic. Look at that chocolate underneath. And that's orgasmic.
Fantastic.
If I remember correctly.
Absolutely brilliant.
Next week, glorious chicken. A blast of kitchen magic. Yes. Crystal clear stock and my delicious chicken pie. Pies don't get any better than that.
There was a quest like no other on Sunday night with 3 hungry boys. Don't worry if you missed it, though. Catch up right now for free. Head to 4OD at channel4.com. Tonight on 4, 9 o'clock, the pleasure, the pain and the buckets of tea for the midwives on standby. One born every minute. Next, though, the fabulous Baker Brothers are wooing hairdressers with pies. They do things different in the country, don't they?